Okay, go ahead.
All right. So my name is Glenn Kramer. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for xCures. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is data, specifically our real-time regulatory grade clinical data. We've heard a lot of presentations today that require the use of data, whether it's for clinical decision support, for helping a patient understand their progress, or for research for a new drug or device for the FDA. Our data is particularly deep in the sense that it covers practically every place where the healthcare system touches the patient. Dynamic in that it goes from point of diagnosis through final outcome for that patient, and also growing fast. We've gone from 5,000 to about 135,000 patients now to date in just the last year. Hang on, wrong thing. Excuse me. Okay, so let's try that. So this regulatory grade clinical data, it's real time, as I said. It requires consented patients from people who have a right to treat the patient. With that, we can access in a matter of minutes data from the health information exchanges. We have our own secret sauce that allows us to follow not only the places that you're receiving care now, but figure out where you have had care in the past. And if you move across the country tomorrow, we can also follow, and this way build up a full record of everything that's happened with the patient. This can be made regulatory grade by being structured in the 21 CFR 11 compliant electronic data system. Everything is source data verified from the point where we acquire it to the place where it resides in our databases and in the electronic data capture systems. As I said, retrospective from time of diagnosis, then it's prospective from that point until final outcome, usable both for clinical research, but also for example, FDA regulatory submissions. Going into the platform in a little more detail, there is the patient consent. This can be done either through a consent process that we run. We run a direct-to-patient outreach that uses that direct consent. Advocacy groups can also use and white label our consent, but then providers and other channel partners may already be treating patients for which they have appropriate consents, and we can acquire those in bulk. Then that data is accessed via health information exchanges. That data, as it comes across, there are a lot of inconsistencies and differences in how it's represented. There could be different coding schemes, for example, between different organizations, but also about 30% of that so-called structured data is actually not structured. It will be in the form of images, text blobs, et cetera. And we have to use AI and machine learning techniques to mine those unstructured pieces to get structured coded data out of that as well. What we wind up with is a precision data catalog, and that catalog is searchable, it's filterable, and it's highly flexible. Patients can see their relevant data through a portal called xInform. Providers have a portal called xDecide. And for industry participants or those who are submitting regulatory filings, there's a process of extracting that data into fit-for-purpose data sets. And those data sets are through our xUtility platform. Okay. This data is also dynamic in the sense that not only are we collecting the data about the alerts, about the patients, but we can also recontact those patients if needed. And we can create what we call real-time alerts or recognizers. So to give you an example, if you are setting up a clinical trial, you're trying to recruit patients, there's a time delay between when those patients find out about you. By the time that they're able to contact you, they may no longer be eligible for your trial. What we can do is go through the entire cohort, set up the rules for that particular clinical trial, what the disease state is, the stage and grade, the inclusion and exclusion criteria, and so forth. And then when someone matches, trigger an alert, which can, depending on what you're doing, if it's a clinical trial or a physical device, it may be a pharma contact. or also contacting the patient if the consent allows that, or the patient's provider to make them aware of this particular device or trial. And this is all about getting the right treatment to the right patient at the right time. A little bit of history on xCures. We were spun out of a nonprofit called Cancer Commons, which still exists today, has helped about 10,000 patients over its years of existence to deal with their cancer diagnosis, to create what we call a cancer journey, their journey through the healthcare system, and help figure out what are the right treatments, what are the right trials, the best next steps for those patients. It's a very person-intense activity with highly expensive people, PhD research scientists, for example. So to help hundreds of thousands or millions of people rather than 10,000 people, what we need to do is we need to take this and augment it with AI and other systems to help in the decision process and make those professionals more effective. So the initial company efforts, what we would do is do fax requests to hospital systems under patient HIPAA right of access, get those back, OCR them, run them through NLP tools and so forth, and mostly manually, but then over time, more automatedly, put it into electronic data capture systems so it could be used in a consistent format. Around 2020, there was a sea change, and you could tell that the health information exchanges were becoming almost ready for prime time. We began doing work then in HIE connectivity prototyping, but also in developing a very good pipeline model for this real-world data collection. And you can see over time, our patient count started out at 0 when we founded the company, and it was slowly growing in a kind of nice linear fashion. In 2021, we added portals for patients and providers to be able to access this data. In 2022, we started to really see that change in the health information exchanges. At the beginning of 2022, it was about 400 providers on those, and by the end of 2022, about 40,000. Now there's several 100,000 providers on the health information networks. We created FHIR and CDA data pipelines, married that with our electronic fax to bat cleanup when we couldn't find the actual data online, and then came up with systems that standardized all of that data and extracted things from the unstructured data. In 2023, we've been adding AI and machine language enhancements to help us scale, and you can see what's happened with our patient count during that time between the HIE availability and the AI and machine language stuff. From a business perspective, our product is relatively simple. You can buy either data or you can buy software, both with supporting services. And then there's a choice of whether you, the client, manage that data or whether xCures does that as a full turnkey operation. What we found is data buyers tend to be biopharma companies that are using this data to support R&D or commercial efforts. I've listed a few examples here of companies that we have partnerships with. A key finding here is that the data buyers don't want to buy data points. They want to buy full cohorts who meet their specifications. So we've designed about 20 disease registries. About 50% of them are cancer-based, which is our original platform. However, our data collection is really disease agnostic. So there are also 50% difficult, rare, or complex non-cancer diseases. There's a short-term addressable market here of close to $50 million per year. And then the software buyers tend more to be service providers to the biopharma area. This is another business area with about 30 to 60 million per year. There are a variety of use cases, as we said, ranging from finding signals in the data to clinical decision support for patients and providers. And we are doubling every year right now in committed ARR. And we do that in large part through our partners. A couple of quick examples in closing are Genome Medical, which marries their genomics data with our full longitudinal data on the patient to do a much better job of advising patients on next steps. a real-world data partnership with Aetion to get this data packaged and available to businesses. And then we are also a fully qualified partner on the AWS Partner Network to launch into larger integration activities as well. We'll be going from that 130,000 patients to well over 1 million patients in the next 12 to 18 months. And it's going to be an interesting ride. We hope to see some of you on there. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Glenn.